In this lesson, we'll begin visualizing our concept by creating some sketches based off of the photo we plan to manipulate. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so throughout the duration of this course, we're going to be creating a photorealistic fantasy character concept. And we're going to achieve this by manipulating a photo of a person. So here we have the photo that we're going to be working on, and I just want to point out the importance of choosing the appropriate type of photo for your manipulation project. In our case, we're going to be creating kind of a goblin or orc-like character, so something really nasty and aggressive looking in appearance. So that's why I've chosen this photo based off of his overall angry facial expression. And this overall expression is going to prove very useful in just laying the groundwork for our mean, nasty-looking goblin, especially once we get in here and just start making a lot of distortions and manipulations to his face. So once you've chosen the photo that you think you'd like to work with, you can begin sketching out your concept based off of that photo. And this can actually allow you to decide if the photo you've chosen is appropriate. And it will really save you a lot of time and a lot of creative guesswork when you begin manipulating your photo later on. So let's go ahead and navigate over here to our layers panel, over here to the screen right, and I've got a layer for our photo, and I also have a layer which I've titled Sketch. Let's turn on the visibility of this layer, and you can see I've basically sketched the overall outline and facial features of our subject here. So what we can do now is basically just drag this over to the side. We'll grab our brush tool and we'll start just basically changing this sketch up and start visualizing what our concept of our goblin or orc-like character will look like. And so what we want to focus on is basically changing up proportions and facial features and push them away from what looks like something that's very human-like to something that feels more fantasy-like and more appropriate for a goblin or an orc. So let's go ahead and actually let's grab our lasso tool first. And we want to focus on just some of these prominent facial features. I may want to go ahead and start with the nose. Let's go ahead and just lasso it, making a selection, and then we can right click, and from the drop down menu we can choose free transform. And so once we've free transformed our selection, we can go ahead and just shrink it down, and let's push it up. All right. So just doing that little change right there is already starting to push this sketch into something that feels a little less human-like in appearance. The next thing we may want to focus on is let's go ahead and extend the jaw. I'm imagining this character as having a jaw that can extend a lot further than what's humanly possible. So just bringing it way down. We'll grab our brush tool now, and we'll also erase away those lines too. And we'll just kind of start to connect these lines as well as the corners of the mouth. All right, so already we're starting to kind of push it further away from being something that feels very human. And the next thing we may want to focus on are the ears. When I think of a goblin or an orc-like character, I think of large, pointy ears. Let's go ahead and make the ears very large. So just making selections around both of the ears to start with. And again, just right-clicking and choosing Free Transform. You can also hit Control-T on your keyboard if you want to free transform. So we're just kind of changing up these ears to be kind of pointed-like, kind of curving them upward. I kind of like the idea of curving them upward. Almost kind of gives him a devil-like kind of appearance. Again, we're going for something that feels very aggressive, very unkind and unfriendly. Character that you would not want to run into out in the woods. All right, so I'm liking how these ears are starting to kind of look. Now the next thing we want to focus on are the eyes. Now if you've ever seen a movie where you've got a character in makeup playing a character like a goblin or an orc, let's say, the one thing that you can really notice that makes them still feel very human is the placement and position of the eyes. And so what we want to do is basically change that. Let's go ahead and spread the eyes further apart. Just kind of pushing those further away from each other. So just doing that, we're already pushing it way much further away from something that feels just very much like a regular person. The next thing we may want to focus on is just changing the overall shape of the skull. So go ahead and make that selection one more time. There we go. And let's go ahead and just free transform this skull. We may want to make it a little bit wider to start with. Just his overall head. Kind of reconnecting some of those lines there. And we may actually want to make the top of his head a little bit taller too. Kind of more, a little bit more slightly pointed. So again, I'm just doing this sketching as just kind of a visualization exercise, really just to kind of get the creative juices flowing. This will kind of save me a lot of time trying to figure out where I want to go with this overall concept while I'm making actual manipulations to my photo. I'll already have kind of a general idea of where I want to take my manipulations to visually. Let's go ahead and kind of focus on the mouth right now. So I'm thinking he's not going to have nice, clean, pristine teeth like our guy has over here. So we may want to think of his teeth kind of being kind of nasty looking, probably kind of jagged, just kind of messed up overall. And on the bottom, maybe he has some really sharp teeth and maybe more than one row of sharp teeth. Something kind of like a shark or something like that. Something maybe that's kind of aquatic in nature. And you want to think about, where does your character exist? What kind of environment do they live in? I'm imagining this character being something that doesn't necessarily function in society, probably lives underground, very, very much a subterranean lifestyle. And just kind of thinking about the environment they're going to live in will really help you kind of visualize how they're going to look. So I'm kind of thinking about the eyes right now, kind of trying to get a feel of what they may look like. And what I might want to do is actually, let's go ahead and make them just a little bit wider, and perhaps we might even make them a little bit larger as well. So right now I'm just kind of widening the eyes just a little bit. And I feel like that gives him kind of a more striking appearance. And then let's just go ahead and enlarge those eyes overall. All right, so I'm liking how that's looking. That's looking really nice. He may also have kind of a prominent brow. I think that will kind of add to that kind of lower form, subterranean kind of look that we're going for. Think of something kind of like a caveman, which stereotypically has kind of a really pronounced brow on their forehead. So just another kind of attribute that we can incorporate. Coming back to the eyes, I'm thinking instead of having nice round pupils, we could have them kind of be a little bit more vertical, kind of vertical slits, kind of like what you would find on a lizard or even a cat. Awesome. I'm liking how this is looking. Might want to add like a prominent recess right above his lip right there. So that's looking pretty cool. I'm thinking about, again, the nose again. I may want to kind of flare out the nostrils just a little bit more. Again, trying to think about just some different facial attributes that we can really push later on to make this character look very aggressive, very mean and frightening. I want him to have really prominent kind of bags under his eyes. And then also just kind of thinking about his overall skin and complexion. Now, we're not going to throw any color on this particular sketch, but I am thinking about what his skin will look like. If he's living kind of a subterranean, underground lifestyle, his skin's probably going to reflect that. So he may have like a lot of blues and greens in his skin. Let's go ahead and maybe think about having some veins just kind of in his skin overall, just some blemishes and cracks, just in his skin. We don't want his skin to be nice and clean and pristine like our angry gentleman over here to the screen left. All right, so we can see how different our sketch looks than when we first started with it, when it was just an overall kind of trace and outline of our male subject here. And so we don't have to be absolutely bound to this sketch, but it's a great visualization exercise. We now have a little bit more direction to follow once we start getting in here and really making a lot of manipulations and distortions, adding other photographic and textural elements to really create this goblin kind of orc-like character. So in the next lesson, we're going to go ahead and get started working on the photo of our angry male subject here and begin manipulating facial features. So stick around and we'll see you in the next lesson.